to the September 22nd, 2021 Board of Education meeting. Happy fall, everybody. Could I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Finaro.
Here.
Ms. Grosset.
Here.
Mr. Hess. Here. Mr. Hughes. Here. Mr. Teresi. Here.
Thank you. Tonight we have a special guest, our other special guest here tonight. We have our student of the month from Center Elementary School, Mr. Andy Nunez-Cirillo. Andy, come up and lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kate Rotino, and I'm the principal of Center Elementary School. I get the privilege of honoring Andy with his award of Student of the Month. So, Andy, I have another copy that I ask you to hold it and stand with these very important people here. So, Andy, I will tell you, it was very difficult for our staff to write this because there's so many wonderful things to say about you. You embody everything it means when we say Center Cyclones Care. But here is what your proclamation reads. The Mayfield City School District and the Mayfield Board of Education present this proclamation to Andy Nunez-Cirillo, Student of the Month from Center Elementary School. Whereas Andy Nunez-Cirillo is a 5th grade student at Center, Andy is recognized by his teachers for striving to display the qualities of a Mayfield Wildcat. He is truly a global citizen who excels both personally as well as academically. And whereas Andy is hardworking and responsible student, he especially showed these qualities last year when he was a remote learner. He quickly adapted to this new way of learning and attended all his Zoom classes on time each day with a bright smile on his face. Andy embraced the challenge of remote learning and showed responsibility by taking ownership of his school assignments. Andy displays critical thinking skills. He is intuitive, thinks outside the box, and can make deep connections to academic content. And where Andy is a natural with technology, it is well known in class that he is a resource and can help others with projects on their Chromebooks and correct computer glitches that come about. He is amazingly creative and his mind is always working and thinking about his next project. He truly flourishes in a classroom where he can make choices that can guide his learning. And whereas Andy shows he cares about others and gets along with everyone, he has an innate ability to know when a peer needs help and seamlessly goes to provide assistance. Andy displays his kind heart and empathy by always having a positive attitude about school. Whereas Andy is charismatic and courageous, he was recently asked to speak in front of all of the Mayfield staff at the opening day ceremony, which he did with great energy, excitement, and confidence. His speech left everyone smiling and feeling uplifted. Andy is a young man who personifies the qualities that make up the portrait of a Mayfield Wildcat. Now, therefore, be it resolved on behalf of all of the members of the Mayfield school community, Andy Nunez-Cirillo is named the Mayfield Board of Education Student of the Month for Center Elementary School on this day, September 22nd, 2021.
Congratulations again, Andy. Good job. All right, now we have our presentation. We're going to start with our Center Elementary School All Access Learning presentations.
Good evening again, everyone. Good evening again, everyone. Thank you for having us, members of the board, Dr. Barnes, Mr. Snyder. Thank you so much for having us here today to share about Center Elementary School. Over the past couple of years, these presentations have started off with a staff testimonial, where a staff member spoke from the heart and shared what it was like to be a cyclone from a staff member's perspective. Tonight, we're going to switch it up a little, and we have two parents who have offered to give a testimonial about what it is like to be a cyclone parent. So I'm first going to introduce Mrs. Andrea Cirillo Ceballos. This happens to be our Student of the Month's mother. Come on up.
Just like that, they love it.
Hello, my name is Andrea Cirillo, and my relationship with Central Elementary began 14 long winters ago, when we got relocated from warm, polluted Mexico City to mega cold but clear blue sky Cleveland, Ohio. Back in Mexico, when we asked for a good school to get our daughter in, my husband's workplace told us, get her into Central Elementary. It's just the best. They didn't say Mayfield School District, they said Center Elementary. And boy, they were right. How can I forget Mrs. Hancock reaching out to make sure my daughter had everything she needed to face a cold winter? Things which I have never even heard before. Snow pants? Snow boots? What? I'm trying to buy those in February. Good luck with that. But we came through. During one of our darkest times as a family, Mrs. Benvenuto showed us real kindness, which I have never experienced before, and it brought peace to our family. Mrs. Risk, or the miracle worker, which is her street name, has been my North Star, my kids' second mother, and honestly, I could not have gone this far with my kids' education without her emotional intelligence. Lastly, Mrs. Campatilla knocked it out of the park last year while leading both the Zoom meetings and the in-person classes. She was always in a good mood, and if we experienced any technical difficulties, especially during a test, she will keep her cool and figure everything out without even breaking a sweat. I was freaking out on the other end, but her ability to remain calm was so contagious that it got into Andy and me. We also experienced a lot of death in my family due to COVID. Half of my family was gone, including my mother. But Mrs. Campatilla and Mr. Di Marino were a huge help and support. As you can see, Central Elementary has been a fundamental part, not only of my kids' education, but has impacted us positively in every way. At Center, I'm really part of the community, and I'm certain that they have my back, as well as I have theirs. I truly believe that working together as a teamwork will help all of their students become exemplary citizens of the world. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
introduce Mr. Matt Shaler, who's a parent of one of our second grade students.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Shaler. My daughter, Isabella, is a second grader at Center Elementary School. She's the one with the big bow on her head right over there. I was asked to share briefly with you this evening some of my thoughts in regards to how this school year has gone and as a testimony of being a part of Center Elementary, and really express what it means to be together. My family is multi-generational members of the Mayfield community and the Mayfield School District. I was and still excited that my daughter gets to go through the same halls that I did 25 plus years ago when I went to Center Elementary. My father is a Mayfield graduate, and my grandfather worked several years as a retired member of the school system. At one point, he was principal of the middle school, and then the business manager for the Mayfield City Schools. Our family loves Mayfield, and we love Center. Because of my experience, our family decided that this was the right community we wanted to see our children raised in. We moved back here on purpose, and we moved back here to be at Center on purpose. I'm proud to have been and still currently part of this Mayfield community in the school district. It's not new news in what we're facing, and COVID has obviously rocked everyone's world, and so much has happened that we could all talk about the personal challenges that we've faced over this last year and a half. My family was affected personally. I, as an RN, even spent several months caring for COVID patients on the floor. And from that, we developed our views and opinions, and some of which differ from the person sitting next to you, I'm sure, tonight. Many of them may differ from the person sitting next to you. And dare I say that some of my views, opinions, and beliefs may differ from this board and the teachers at the school that my daughter goes to, views that I'm passionate about and that you're passionate about. But as a group of us are here tonight with different views and beliefs, some of which we're very passionate about, I'd like to challenge you to entertain the idea for us to keep a common perspective. Common, the derivative of community. Since the idea of community started, groups of people formed communities to increase their chances of survival, right? Someone simple as getting food together may be easier as a community, or they formed a community as a form of protection against something that threatened their survival. I would love to say, I believe with all my heart, Center Elementary and Mayfield City Schools is a community. So what is the common in this Mayfield community, in the Center community? What makes who we are? Because we are, as a community, stronger together than we are alone. COVID attacked community, and more than ever before, this sense of community is being challenged and threatened. And I am so thankful that as a parent who has a daughter that goes to Center and in the Mayfield School District, that community, although being challenged, has never been broken. Stay together. Not always agree or stay silent, but stay together. I'm thankful that's what our schools are fighting for, that we would stay together. Together, our children in their classrooms, which are so important. Together in our meeting places and workplaces. Together in our families, and together as a community. In summary, that's how I feel this school year has gone so far. That our schools are fighting and working towards staying together. And in spite of the challenges that they've faced, challenges that don't really come with any explanation, right? You can't just ask the person next to you how they handled this situation before. This hasn't happened before. But instead, listen to the voices of us as a community, as us as parents of kids in the schools, my daughter being one of them. I'm thankful that this school year and this school system so far has fought to stay together. But I believe what makes a community healthy and flourish isn't when we agree about everything, but rather when we stick together. It's fighting for what you believe in, but keeping that sense of responsibility that I know Center is teaching my daughter. That sense of responsibility that we have for each other, to care for each other. That person next to you that you don't agree with, that neighbor that may drive you crazy, the city or school official that you don't see eye to eye on. Sure, we can decide to break this community and fend for ourselves and what we think is best. Or we can keep the perspective that community has fought to keep since the beginning. We are better together. We are stronger together. And I'm thankful that my daughter comes home from school, from Center and from this school district, knowing that being together is more important than being on your own. I'm thankful what Center has poured into her and what's going to continue to pour into her for several more years of her life and as she moves up through the Mayfield School District. A quote that I love and I hope to live my life and teach my children to live to is, let us not love with just words, but in action and in truth. I love Mayfield, I love Mayfield Schools, I love Center. I am so thankful for them. I'm thankful that my daughter gets to go through them. Mask or no mask, vaccine or no vaccine, social distance or not, don't let this thing cause a more life-threatening pandemic than COVID itself, and that's division. I'm thankful that my daughter is being taught at these schools and at Center in particular that we are better together. So thank you all of us, for fighting for community, not just this year, but beyond that. Thank you for fighting to keep us together. And I'm thankful to know that my daughter is in part of a school district and a part of a school at Center where she's going to learn that she is better together.
So we pride ourselves in the name Team Center, and it's pretty powerful right now. Before we go further with the presentation, I'd like to share the members of our school community that are going to be here tonight to present and share with you about our school. We have Mr. Jeff Schiller, our assistant principal. We have we have Miss Haley Jacobson, who's a second grade teacher. Ms. Jacobson is also going through an administrative internship right now, so just letting you all know she's doing a great job. Would you mind clicking to the next one? We also have some super special guests here, probably the most special here, no offense to everyone else. But if you would please stand up when I say your name. We have Addie, Sal, Penelope, Cameron, Izzy, Gossip, and of course you've all met Andy already. All right, you can all have a seat. Good job. So tonight's goals. We have two main goals. We want to share about our team's culture and our vision for learning. And we want to share about our new teaming model for personalized learning, which is something brand new that you really don't hear about at the elementary level. Now wait, hold on, don't play, because there's something new to this slide. I won't say who. One of our second graders shared with family why she was coming tonight, our famous teamwork. In her words, she was coming to teach grown-ups how to get along. And so I thought, well, perfect, she gets it, teamwork. So last year at Center, we spent a lot of time using this resource. It's a book called The Power of Moments, and I recommend it for anyone, whether you're an educator or not. It's a lot of stories and just ideas about the power that moments in your life have over you. So one of the biggest messages it tells you is that our memories are tied to emotions. We don't remember everything about a situation, but you remember the ones that have the strongest emotions. So you remember what they call peak moments that provoke memorable delight. As educators, oh, I wasn't done yet. As educators, we have the power to create these, and we also have the power to celebrate the ones that weren't planned. So you might ask, why is there a jar of spaghetti sauce on the screen? Because when I think back to last year, personally, and I reflect upon all the memories I have, there's one that always pops up first. And it's a pretty simple memory, but there was so much emotion tied to it that that's what I remember so vividly. And it involves spaghetti sauce. So there was a day in the spring, it was early spring. It had rained quite a few days in a row. The grass hadn't been cut in a while outside at our school because of the rain. On that particular day, we had a substitute custodian, and he really wanted to help get the kids out for recess because they had had indoor recess quite a few days in a row. And he also wanted to make sure it was safe. So he opened the school, he got everything ready for the teachers and staff and students, and then he went out and he started cutting the grass. Well then, all of a sudden over the radio, I hear, "Is there a custodian available?" And I knew he was outside cutting grass. So I went, and it turned out that one of our pieces of playground equipment had broken. And the Before Care had noticed it, and they needed a custodian to make sure it was safe for our first recess of the day. So I told the custodian what was going on, went and found some caution tape, cautioned off the area just to keep it safe until he could come in and fix it. While I'm doing that, I hear another one on the radio. "Is there a custodian available?" I'm like, oh my gosh, no. But how can we help? Mr. Schiller was in a meeting, by the way. It's not that he doesn't want to help. He was in a meeting. Well, what had happened was, it was the week of our food drive, and a student walked in the main entrance and dropped a can of spaghetti sauce. So there was sauce everywhere and broken glass everywhere. So I hurry up, finish caution taping everything off. I walk in and froze because my school resource officer, my healthcare paraprofessional, and one of my administrative assistants dropped everything and went to clean it up. Now, probably most people in this room would do that, but you can hear the emotion in my voice, and I felt it that day too. Last year was hard, and everybody at Center helped to clean up the spaghetti sauce, and everybody in Mayfield helped to clean up the spaghetti sauce. So for me, that is a very emotional memory, and it's something that I have personally learned from. I learned to appreciate what everybody was doing to make the school year happen last year. So I just wanted to use this story to explain the power of just a simple moment, but also to thank everybody in this room. There are so many students, teachers, staff members, parents, board members, administrators who cleaned up the spaghetti sauce. So thank you. From Center to all of you, we want to say thank you. Now, moving on to this year. The resource we're using this year is a book. It's not even an educator's book. It's actually about sports. It's called You Win in the Locker Room First. And it's written by an NFL coach, Mike Smith, and John Gordon, who is, he does a lot of going around to teams to promote teamwork. All right? So this has been the heart of our work this year. The whole meaning behind the title is that you don't win a championship on the day of the championship. You win a championship in the locker room or on the field all those days that you prepare for it. So that's been our motto this year as educators. We're really focusing hard on what we do in the locker room so that it pays off in the championship for our kids. So all of our professional learning days and all of our team time, there's a strong focus on maximizing all of those minutes so that we can help our learners. So one of the first messages in the book, it actually teaches you that your energy radiates 10 feet in every direction. So we used this with our staff just as a reminder that we all have rough days, but we have to keep in mind is whatever our energy is, it goes 10 feet around us. And we always have little kids around us. So we want to make sure that our energy is as positive as possible. A small gift that we gave to all of our staff members at the beginning of the year is a magnetic bracelet, which I have mine on. They're bracelets used for athletes that actually promote healing and positive energy. So all of our staff members have one. It just as a reminder that our energy does travel 10 feet and that we control the culture of the locker room. The second message that this book shares is the importance of a very clear vision for your team. So I'm going to share just a little bit about our vision. The document on the right is our vision document, and I know you all cannot read it, but our main vision is to personalize learning for all. And when we say all, we mean students, but we also mean staff. So we all want to be learners, and we want to personalize it to whatever we need. There's 4 main components to our vision: all access learning, personal wellness, social emotional support, and a caring culture. I will tell you that this document has taken 7 years because every year we make it better. Every year we add something that makes us stronger as a team. This year, we have another vision document, and it's called Intervention Reimagined. We're doing something that I have not heard of at the elementary level. We are teaming, which I worked, before I was at Center, I was at Mayfield Middle School for many years as a teacher and an administrator, and I know the teaming model from a middle school perspective. Typically, you have a science, a social studies, math, language arts teacher. They're all working together to help a core group of students. We're doing the same thing at Center, and actually in all the elementary schools this year. Our team consists of the teachers for the grade level, an interventionist, and a paraprofessional that are working together to support a core group of students. What we use to do it is something called the workshop model, which you'll learn about a little bit later in our presentation. The next message in the book talks about how culture is contagious and how you want to make sure that whatever culture you create in your school is a positive one. So we have worked hard the first maybe 6 weeks of school to develop a strong team culture in every grade level. We've had to teach the kids what that means, but also the adults in how we're going to work together for the common goal of personalized learning. These are just a couple of pictures to show it. The one on the right might be hard to see, especially in this room, but that is a kindergarten classroom, and there's 3 different adults in there at that moment in time working with 3 small groups of kids on 3 different things. That's whatever those kids need. So that picture to me was very powerful, and that is what we're striving to do this year at Center. I'm going to introduce Ms. Jacobson now to share how we work to build that culture.
Well, I'd just like to start by saying thank you to the board members, thank you to Mrs. Rutino and Mr. Schiller for inviting me here. And I want to especially thank my 2nd grade friends and their families for bringing them here tonight, because we have something very special for you guys in just a little bit. Whenever I speak, I usually like to start with a quote. So my quote tonight: coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. This quote describes exactly how Team Center is building a great year. We are doing it together. It all started with coming together on those first days. Keeping together through our process of developing a plan through our team approach with our workshop coaching and our goals and our milestones. And now working together for student success. When our 2nd grade team first thought about this idea of building, as many teams did, our 2nd grade team thought about Legos and puzzles, fitting pieces together to create a whole shared vision. Our 2nd grade Build Together tickets, which is what you're looking at now, actually came from many different drafts of ideas. But for us, the vision became clear when we put the students and their learning first. With students at the center, relationships in our heart, and goals on our mind, our process allowed us to work together with our students to set clear expectations of ourselves and each other, work together to solve problems, reflect on our choices, and of course, celebrate our successes. On the next slide, you're going to see how these tickets come into play. So as a team, we have worked together to build our puzzles. These students have worked to earn tickets for positive choices, going above and beyond expectations, and setting and reaching goals. As we know, a structure, or a team for that matter, is only as strong as its parts. So we continue to build together through our mutual respect, our focus on our goals, and above all, our teamwork. Another way we continue to build our culture is through something I like to call team building tasks. Since the first day of school, these students have engaged in these challenges, or team building tasks as I like to call them, and they continue to go above and beyond my expectations with every single one of these. So these are some examples of our team building tasks from the first couple weeks of school, and we continue to do these each week as we progress. And every single time through these challenges, I'm so impressed by the way they take on each other's perspectives, the way they think outside the box to solve problems, the way they embrace the voices of their teammates, and also the way they celebrate each other along the way, even if they weren't on the same team. That's my favorite part. Another one of my favorite parts is what I'll get to do in just a moment, is where I get to interact and engage and talk with each of them throughout the process. So there's some more pictures of some of our other team building tasks. All right, so obviously we've got some wonderful students here, and I invited my friends here to help show you all how we build together. Okay, so my friends, what I'm going to ask right now, that bin that's underneath your chair, would you mind grabbing that bin? All right, and board members, if it's okay, we actually would like to invite you to participate in a team building task today. So my friends, I'm going to ask that you go around the table and stand next to your board member, okay? We're going to hold it like that. So my friends have had a little bit of practice with this one. This was actually the one we did on the very first day of school. And I started with just a simple goal, a simple task in mind. With your partner, or with your team, you're going to work together using the materials you have to build the longest paper chain. And that's really all I told them. I didn't give them any strategies on how. I just gave them a goal, gave them some material, and let them work. And that's what you are going to be working on today with your partner. So you will have 4 minutes, and again, your goal is to try and build the longest paper chain. Are we ready? All right, ready, set, work together. Almost got halfway done. All right, we are down to the 1 minute mark.
Oh, yeah. 30 seconds. We see that.
30 seconds. Four, three, two, one. Everybody breathe. Hands up. Hands up. Alrighty. So my friends, with your board member, your partner, can we just hold up our chain so everybody can see what we were able to create in just 4 minutes together? Wow. Wow. Oh my gosh, I'm so impressed. So as I mentioned earlier, one of my favorite parts during this is getting to walk around and hear the conversation that's happening, but also just seeing the energy right before my eyes. And as I was walking around, there were so many different strategies, so many different conversations, all positive going on. And working together is so, so important. So we don't just stop there. We didn't just make a chain to make a chain, okay? Yes, we had a goal in mind, and our goal was to try and make the longest paper chain possible. But this was all about the process of working together, our team's process. So really quick, let's think about these things. What went well? Do I have somebody who wants to share about what went really well? Penelope, what went well for you?
Well, first that I told him to cut the strips about this wide, and then we had to tape them together, and we were able to use all of the strips that we had.
So you were very clear with your directions, and you led right from the start, right? Because we know how to do this one. Awesome, I saw that leadership. I have one more friend who wants to share about what went well. Addie, what went well?
What went well? I told Mr. Hughes to cut the paper, and I taped it.
Oh, teamwork, right? One friend doing one thing, one partner doing the other. Hey, who would like to comment on how could we improve on our goal? Remember, our goal was to try and build the longest chain possible. And if you're looking at your chain, maybe you're not super happy with how long it is. So how could you improve if you were to do this the next time? How could would you improve or get better? What would you maybe do next time?
Eric said, I'd love to have somebody to cut the paper faster.
Use some quicker cutting skills. Is he?
Be more confident.
To be more confident. And we're doing this in front of a crowd right now, so you're maybe feeling a little nervous, but I think having a partner was really helpful, right? Awesome. All right, and this one is for everyone to reflect on really quick. How would you rate your teamwork? Thumbs up, thumbs middle, thumbs down. I could show both of my thumbs right now. I'd be showing both of my thumbs. All the way up. Yes, the teamwork was amazing. So at this time, my second grade friends and Andy, I would like you to take the paper chain into our secret spot to finish your task. So go ahead, my friends. I'll see you in a little bit. I'm just going to speak a little bit longer and then I'll pass it over to Mr. Schiller. But another key takeaway from this book you went in the locker room first was having a clear process. Okay? These students came in with a very clear process of how they wanted to achieve this goal. I'm going to talk a little bit about how, how having a clear process is so important, especially in our workshop model. These pictures were taken in the first couple of days of school when we started setting and establishing our expectations for ourselves and for each other in our different workshops, our math workshop, our language arts workshop. And they were working together to create these rules and these expectations. What does it look like when we do math all together? What should it sound like? What does it feel like when we do that? They were the ones creating those rules. We did the same in language arts as well. They worked together throughout the whole first week to create and establish those rules. And already on day, I think it's 22 of school, they were so independent because they had that process. They worked together to create and establish those clear expectations for each other. And there's just a few more pictures to show too of just the workshop in action. So I'm going to pass it over to Mrs. Schiller now.
All right, thank you. I get to follow the kids. It's fun being the assistant. First of all, thank you again, board, for letting us be here tonight to present. Thank you to all the families who brought the kids and everything. We definitely appreciate it. So one of the things that goes along with the win in the locker room is really centered on coaching. And that's something that's very near and dear to Mrs. Bertino and myself, both being former athletes and everything else. And it fit with everything that we wanted to do. It fits in with the team center motto. We knew this year was going to be tough. Last year was hard for one reason, this year is hard for another. And one of the things that we wanted to do was increase how we do our teaming model. And one of the things that we needed to do this year was make sure that each grade level had access to an intervention specialist. And the reason why we did that is because when you have an intervention specialist, they're the ones that are really going to be able to dive in and help us diagnose different problems, behavioral, academic, and we can do it. And we have a schedule where we can do this every 6 days instead of the traditional model of intervention, which is 4 to 6 weeks. So we're hitting these a lot faster. And with having the interventionists during our PLC time with our teachers is it allows us to look at data, collect it, and be able to diagnose problems much faster and get support to the students much quicker, and then monitor to see how the kids are growing. One of the things that we've added this year is a coaching model for instruction. And I know this is hard to see, but basically what this is kind of a game board that we've called it. And it gives all of our instructional leadership team the ability to coach their PLC teams throughout this whole instruction process. And looking at the standards, doing pre-assessments. Let's find out what the kids know. If the kids don't know it, we're going to go back, we're going to cover it, or we're going to move some kids forward. what this really is it helps us reach that goal of the personalized learning for all. Because not everybody's going to be at the same spot on this. So we've got to know how to react to that and make sure that we're keeping up with what we need to do. So that's something, just a diagram that we've had to do that. Along this year, one of the things that we're working on is looking at smaller milestones. And one of the things that we want to do is set small, obtainable goals that are going to help us get to our ultimate goal, which is personalizing for kids and to watching them grow. And one of the things that we want our teams to do is to have fun and to celebrate that growth as we go. So a lot throughout the year, you're going to hear more about how we're meeting these milestones. Some of the milestones that we have already accomplished this year is a team culture in each grade level. We've got a workshop model that will help personalize learning in every classroom, and data collection and analysis to help us personalize instruction. And then ultimately, that personalized learning for all.
All right, in closing, we have a little visual aid for you that the kids have been working on to show you the power of teamwork. This is what we create, or you created in 4 minutes. Great job, boys and girls. You can stay right there because I'm just about done. You'll be happy to know we're going to decorate your board table with that when we leave here tonight. Just one final thing, a final thank you from all of us. There's a small gift for each of you. There's a few things in it. My family, we have a very special spaghetti sauce recipe. So I gave that to you with a box of pasta so you can make dinner sometime from my family to yours. There is a positive energy bracelet in there for you so you can radiate 10 feet of positive energy. And there's some thank you cards from our 2nd grade students. So thank you very much to everybody for having us tonight.
Testing 1, 2.
Guess I wasn't talking loud enough. Thank you, center staff, for bringing our scholars over and spending some time with us. Students, outstanding work. It is obvious the culture of the center is focused on students, their successes. Today was a wonderful display of exactly that. So we really appreciate you spending some time with us tonight so that we get an opportunity to see exactly what's happening, the amazing things that are happening in your school and in your classrooms. Very, very proud of that. Thank you very much. Thank you, scholars. Cyclones, Center Cyclones, thank you.
Great job.
Jeff, kids, you did a wonderful job. Thank you for having us part of your presentation. It was fun. We had a great time. I'm happy to see students backing up more. This is probably my favorite part of the meeting. Being able to see the students, especially the second graders, as smart as you are, as energetic as you are at 8 o'clock at night. The one thing I just wanted to, my printer didn't work, so I had to take a picture of what I wrote for the 5th grade classes at Center Elementary School. Students told us here, our 5th grade teachers are here, but I want to thank you for the letters that your students in the 5th grade had sent us. I picked them up Friday at the board office and shared them with the board members tonight. I found out that the students really love recess, be with their friends. They love lunch in the cafeteria. They thanked us to be able to be in the cafeteria and eat again. But they love the AC, and they just love being safe and healthy in school. So we really appreciate the cards and letters that they put together for us. So thank you. Please let them know that for us. And I also want to, just thank everybody over this past couple of months that have contacted board members, contacted administration, to thank us just for the job that we're doing. Thank the staff for what they're doing, the administration for what they're doing. Even though some people that I've talked to didn't agree with me or what I think or what we're doing, we still need to share this unity. And that's what it's all about. So I appreciate everything that everybody's done. But thank you for the presentation. Great job. And I'm going to test your pasta sauce out. And I'll let you know. My bias when I taste it, but just to let you know. Thank you. So at this time, I'm going to take like a 5 or 10 minute recess, and we'll let the kids get home so they can do their homework. They have homework or tomorrow, whatever you need to do. So at this minute, we're going to take about 5 minutes break. Thank you. All right, we're going to call the meeting back to order. At this time, we have a COVID quarantine guidelines update from Mr. Nedlock.
Thank you, Mr. Fornaro, members of the board, Dr. Barnes, Mr. Schneider. I just want to spend a few moments talking about the Ohio Department of Health, Ohio County Board of Health COVID quarantine guidelines. These guidelines were discussed with the district via the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio back on the 9th of September and formally submitted to the district through the Ohio County Board of Health on September 15, 2021. What I just want to do is take a few moments to summarize the changes that occurred with this new revision. First one is that the board has, Department of Health has defined exclusion and quarantine differently. Second item is Cobb County Board of Health and other local boards of health now have the authority to isolate positive cases and quarantine close contacts for medically diagnosed instances. Schools cannot quarantine anyone, but are required to exclude students and staff from schools and school activities if they've been ordered by the Board of Health to isolate or quarantine. The district is in violation of Ohio Revised Code if they do not exclude someone who has been ordered to isolate or quarantine. Third, the isolation and quarantine letters from the Cobb County Board of Health sends to positive cases and close contacts. That document has been revised. Fourth, the required Cobb County Board of Health contact tracing line list has also been revised. This list is aligned with the district's list of those who would be notified and excluded from school and school activities. The summary of the above are the displayed quarantine flow chart. Does the school have? And there's 3 items. Masking of students and staff regardless of vaccination status. Second, maximize physical distancing as much as possible. Third, have a documented COVID-19 prevention strategy. In Mayfield City School, the answer to all the above 3 is yes. In this instance, individuals identified as close contacts may safely remain in the normal, in-person classroom setting and participate in extracurricular activities as long as they are symptom-free. One area of note, area of concern in our mitigation strategy is lunchtime. This is the time when students are unmasked for obvious reasons so they can eat, possibly 15 minutes in close contact with other students. This is the area of the school day that we may see students excluded from school or quarantined based on a positive case. With that, I'd open up to any questions from the board. Thank you.
Next is our presentation, our 2021-22 annual appropriation. Mr. Snyder.
Testing. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Canaro. On the district webpage. Testing. There we go. On the district board docs page, this presentation, I've also got a few handouts over here if anybody would like one. It's almost like following the COVID presentation, flow charts and numbers. It'll be very riveting, I'm sure, for those of you in the audience and those of you at home watching on YouTube. The budget is required to be adopted annually on or before September 30th, or on or before October 1st, I should say. Page down. And its purpose, it represents anticipated revenues and expenditures for all funds under the school's control. It establishes the legal level of spending authority for the Board of Education and the district administration for ORC, which is the Ohio Revised Code 5705.36. Our fiscal year is July 1st through June 30th. All amounts are in a cash basis, meaning we don't follow GAAP principles, which are essentially accrual-based. The budget is purpose in continuation. It's to support the 4 priority areas of the district as identified in its quality improvement plan. Those 4 items are student learning and academic excellence. That is number 1 because we're all here to educate kids. So think of it as the base of a stool with the 2 through 4 representing the legs to support the student learning. Number 2, growing leadership and talent, professional capacity. 3, community relations, and 4, fiscal stewardship and operations. So we only review this and develop the budget in conjunction with these 4 areas. The budget itself is comprised of 8 fund classifications. I want to go through them line and verse. I do have in blue shade items 1, 3, and 4. That is where your local property taxes are deposited. General fund, capital projects, and debt service. The other 5 fund classifications typically have restrictions related to the revenues that are received. I know this is hard for you sitting at your seats, so I'll just simply give a couple of highlights and then we'll move on. This year's budget is $134.3 million. It's $3.4 million greater than it was last year. Some big variances that are to the right of this table. We have a $1.3 million reduction in capital improvements because we finished improvements to Mayfield Middle School. As an example, the general fund is increasing by 3.78%, which typically our operating budget increases between 3 and 5. So we're right at the low end of that mark. It's 2.8. Shaded in yellow, I've highlighted that because I'm going to touch on that in a moment. But that's special revenue. Special revenue funds are revenue sources legally restricted to expenditures for specified purposes. It's got a 34% increase year over year, 2.3 in total dollar. This chart of funds, again, is hard for you all to see at your tables. Again, this is online, but the largest classification I've got highlighted are what's called ESSER funds. These funds were established as part of the federal stimulus package as a result of COVID. States were allocated X amount of dollars to essentially establish localized practices to address localized concerns as it relates to addressing the COVID pandemic. That number that's included in that shaded area is 3.9 million. Just to give an example, last fiscal year, we received 285,000. So this was round 2 of this stimulus package, and it included 2 allocations. So this year, $3.9 million, and I'm going to jump to the last slide and explain what this district is intending to do with those dollars. The first is the American Recovery Plan, ARP, Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, so ARP ESSER. We received $2.7 million. This has a spending period of July 1 to September 30th of 2023. So it's got a 2-year spend down provision. We plan and are using these funds to employ temporary teachers, support staff to provide appropriate social distancing, class size support, alternative learning, and supervision support for all students brought upon by the COVID-19 pandemic. We mentioned lunch. We're working in pods and trying to help kids enjoy their lunchtime by separating them out, having them throughout the building, so we need additional supports for that endeavor. The remainder resources will be reevaluated at the end of this school year, and we will either continue these personnel supports, or, and I'll jump down to item 2, and then I'll finish the sentence with respect to item 1. The second reallocation is $1.2 million. Again, this is the elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund, ESSER round 2. These funds are going to be used to do an audit and improve our HVAC and air handling systems district-wide. We need energy management and control systems to improve the efficiency, but also the effectiveness of the air utilization. We don't believe we have any air handling systems that are failing, but this is an opportunity to use these one-time resources. That is the concern. This money is one-time, so let's put it into capital improvements. Let's invest in our facilities, because we don't get a lot of federal and state money generally, because we're viewed as a wealthy school district. So these two are working in tandem, because the $2.7 million, if we need to hire additional staff to support the pandemic relief initiative, we'll have that money again for next year. But again, if in the event that we don't need it all for people, which again are going to be limited or temporary, then we'll look to take those remainder dollars and continue to improve the HVAC systems. And the ESSER rules do permit window replacement, because you go into that old window. So again, let's take advantage of these one-time dollars rather than putting them into permanent ongoing expenses. And examples on this agenda this evening, you will see people that are going to be employed where it says ARP ESSER funds one time. They have a one-time limited contract, so they're with us for this year. And then we'll reevaluate whether we will bring them back next year, but there's no obligation or guarantee of continued employment. We'll also see that we're going to enter into a contract with Gardner to begin the HVAC process for the second tier of money, because that has a September 30th of 2022 spend down requirement. So it's got a shorter timeline, so we've got to get after it very quickly. This is not just simply me. I would like to thank Dr. Barnes, Mr. Nedley, Mr. Budget, Mr. Lord, Ms. Serino, Ms. Mueller, the entire Mr. Duplay, and this, if I didn't mention him, the whole central office team has been working very diligently to ensure that these funds are invested, but not creating an ongoing permanent obligation for the district. Because when combined, this is the last time I'll make, it's $3.9 million. It's approximately 3 mils in local property taxes. So if we embed this in permanent and ongoing, we will be looking at adding 3 mils to the next levy request. Those are things that we take very seriously, and we work very hard to stretch our dollars as far as we can. Entertain any questions from the board? There'll be a recommendation for the annual appropriations document in the financial section, treasurer section on the agenda this evening. If not, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. Thank you, Mr. Schneider, for that presentation. Members that you've seen, the love with us all the time. Next, I'm going to move around with move to our community communication evening. I want to read our public participation in board meetings. We have speakers that want to speak tonight, so I want to make sure we go over our rules and what our board meeting expects out of our speakers tonight. So our public participation in board meeting policy. The Board of Education recognizes the value of school government and public comment on education issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. All meetings of the board and the board appointing committees are open to the public. In order for the board to fulfill its obligation to to complete the planned agenda in an effective and efficient fashion. A maximum of 30 minutes of total public participation may be permitted at each meeting. Each person addressing the board shall give his or her name and address. If several people wish to speak, each person is allotted 5 minutes until the total time of 30 minutes is used. The period of public participation may be extended by a vote of the majority of the board present and voting. Agendas are available to those who attend board meetings. The section of the agenda for public participation shall be indicated. Any person or group wishing to place an item on the agenda shall register their intent with the superintendent no later than 5 school working days prior to the meeting and include name and address of the participant, group affiliation, if an appropriate topic to address. We had 7 people do that before the agenda, to add something to the agenda. And I think what we want to talk about was already added to the agenda afterwards. One person could not be here tonight, so we're down to 6 out of that group. Such request shall be subject to the approval of the superintendent and the board president. The presiding officer of each board meeting at which public participation is permitted shall administer the rules of the board for its conduct. The presiding officer shall be guided by the following rules. Public participation shall be permitted as indicated in the order of business. Residents, groups of residents or staff members having a legitimate interest in the action of the board may participate during the public portion of the meeting. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and will be requested to face their comments by an announcement of their name, address, and group affiliation if appropriate. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 5 minutes duration. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. Tape or video recordings are permitted, providing the person operating the recorder has received approval from the superintendent prior to the board meeting and agrees to the placement of the equipment and to abide by the following conditions. No obstructions are created between the board and the audience. Interviews are conducted in the meeting room while the board is in session. No commentary, adjustment of equipment, or position of operators is made that would distract either the board or members of the audience while the board is in session and not disrupt the meeting. The presiding officer may interrupt board or terminate a participant's statement if the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Request any individual to leave the meeting when that person does not observe reasonable decorum. Request the assistance of law enforcement officers in the removal of a disorderly person and that person's conduct interferes with the orderly progress of the meeting. Call for a recess or adjournment to another time when the lack of public decorum so interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting is to warrant such action or to waive these rules. The portion of the meeting during which the participation of the public is invited shall be limited to 30 minutes unless extended by the vote of the board. And the next section is broadcasting and tape recording, which we talked about before. So I'm not going to go through that again. You need permission ahead of time to record any of this. We do have 6 additional speakers that filled out a form before they came in tonight. So I'd like to make a motion to add 30 minutes to our 30-minute time to get that a total of an hour. And I have a second. Roll call, please.
Ms. President?
Yes.
Mr. Hess? Mr. Hughes?
Yeah.
Mr. Torresi? Mr. Canaro?
Yes. So, let's start off by first in, first up. Our first speaker is Tori Morris. Just a reminder, we didn't have an issue at last meeting, maybe 1 or 2, but the 5-minute time limit is 5 minutes. Your microphone will be cut. There will be no recording after the 5 minutes. So just to let you know.
I'm sorry, I'm deaf. You're wearing a mask and you're speaking very slow, so I can't hear you. I'm partially deaf.
Okay. You have 5 minutes.
Oh, so I'm on the agenda and I get 5 minutes?
And the microphone will be cut at 5 minutes.
5 minutes. 5 minutes to go through all this. Okay, fantastic. My name is Tori Maris. My daughter is a student here. I live in Mayfield. She's at Mayfield High School. I had submitted some questions for the agenda, but watching today's presentation shocked me. The bracelets that they're handing out to students are the same ones that are being handed out when they're recruiting children through middle school and high school for Antifa and Sunrise Movement, having them join that club. I am completely appalled that my daughter's school, the high school, sent an email asking for her to join a social youth activism counselor. What is this? We're making activists? We're going to be handing them bricks to go create riots? This is ridiculous. But the other thing is the ESSER funds. I don't know who makes these financial decisions and this free money that you need to spend, but the bottom line is masks do not work. Fauci's emails that have been released say it. And there's a school in Westerville, Ohio, called the Oakstone Academy. They were faced with the challenge, being a school that has students up into the 90th percentile. They decided masks don't help, especially for younger students, that I saw so many young kids wearing these medical devices. They didn't put masks on. Instead, they actually used real science, which was increase the turnover of air. This is actual, factual science. To be able to have, if you have dilution, masks do not protect you from viruses. It has been proven again and again and again. And there are tons of Lord Fauci emails that say it. So you're spending your money wrong, and we need to talk about that. Speaking of spending money, I have filed a federal lawsuit against the school board. And obviously, my temporary restraining order, science, they didn't want to talk about it right then. But do you know these people that are sitting here, how they're trying to get it dismissed? They're telling me as a parent, I don't have the right to represent my kid. Are you guys paying attention? So I'm a person that can't afford an attorney. I could have withdrawn it, I could have sat there and wiped the floor clean with science, because I've got experts, mental health experts, people that speak ASL, I've got tons, developmental experts, actual doctors that are finally saying the truth, including that about the vaccines. And so I could have done that, but I'm not, because I don't think a lot of the parents here have the ability to fork out 20, 30 grand for an attorney. So these people that sit on the board, some of them look like, they're falling asleep when they're here. Others, look down on you. They hired a law firm that is massive. Look at your board documents. It says that you have a counselor on file. Why did they pick a juggernaut law firm to go against me? Because if you actually read my case, I actually made public record possible crimes that I've already stated to the FBI. Lottery winner for Vax-A-Million happened to be here. Someone on the board actually works for the Ohio Lottery. Enrichment, Mayfield School City Foundations. The people that are on the foundation get paid by the Mayfield School Board to complete projects in Mayfield City School Board. It's called self-enrichment, conflict of interest, and some of them even want to run for the school board. We need to get rid of these people, right? We don't have to wait for elections, we can actually do it ourselves. But here's where we're going. There's a writ mandamus filed in the state of Ohio. Every single one of you quoting science, I don't care what you're quoting, Board of Health, whatever, is against the Ohio State Constitution. Article 1, Section 21, Constitution, not laws, says no federal, no state, no local law or rule can compel any individual to participate in a healthcare system. What you are doing, masks, healthcare devices, it's actually identified. Healthcare system is identified as healthcare services, healthcare devices, healthcare data collection and information. This is a violation of the Constitution. DeWine's quite uncomfortable, so is Dave Yost right now. Because how are they going to say, well, we're using discretion on the Constitution of Ohio, so maybe we won't apply it. I will make it my life's mission, because unfortunately for you, I happen to be in your school district. If you did your homework, you know that I go up against big people like Dominion, attorney generals, corrupt people like Brennan from the CIA, where I give depositions on that stuff. I have thousands of Ohioans right now that have filed thousands and nationwide affidavits in the federal lawsuit. Take note, parents, they own your kids, and they said it in the court. You have no right to defend your kid, they make the decisions. And these masks don't work, and they can invest that money in implementing things that can actually help for future things like flus or anything else, or cooties, not masks. But we'll take it out in court. I'm going to make sure each and every one of you get held accountable. And
Speaker is Tracy Previn. Tracy. Next on our list is Mr. Kesselman, but he could not be here tonight.
say it's just a mask and question why so many are fighting so hard against it. Well, let me tell you why it's not just a mask. 1 year and 6 months ago, we were told it's just a short shutdown. It's just 14 days to slow the spread. It's just to prevent overwhelming the hospitals. It's just working from home. It's just virtual learning for a few weeks. It's just to protect yourself, and it's just to protect others. But as we know, this lasted much longer than just 2 weeks. We are now just 80 weeks into the new normal that is life with COVID. I venture to say that everybody in this room took COVID as seriously as possible back in March of 2020. That we all did our part to keep this virus from spreading or from infecting ourselves or those we love. But here we are, 567 days later, where we have learned so much more about this disease, how it spreads, how it behaves, and even how to treat it. Medically, we are far more advanced than we were 80 weeks ago. But we are still being conditioned to live in the same fear we had back then when we were told it's just social distancing, it's just a mask, it's just updated guidance, it's just until we have a vaccine, it's just until everyone at risk is vaccinated, it's just until everyone who wants to can be vaccinated. But our children have now been thrust into a third year with mandates set for them by the government with no parental input. At times, they feel forced to choose between listening to the advice of their own parents or following the rules in school, which might contradict each other. This cannot be how we operate our schools. In a time that is both fragile and sorely lacking in transparency, we need to have a choice as to how to best protect our own families. Because make no mistake about it, today we stand here debating who has the right to tell our children to mask, but very soon we will be here to tell us who has the right to quarantine our healthy children or vaccinate our child, because after all, it's just for your protection. It's just to protect others around you. It's just one injection. It's just 2 injections. It's just a few bad reactions. It's just a few side effects. And it's just until we get the new variant under control. Well, it was just last week when Joe Biden told the American people that he was calling for governors to require vaccinations for teachers and school staff. He also called on entertainment venues such as sports arenas and big concert halls to require that patrons be vaccinated or show a negative test for entry. If you do not think this will have a trickle-down effect to mandating a vaccination for your child, despite what you believe, you are not paying attention. At first, it was just an added safety measure. It's just a recommendation. And today, it's just a mandate. This new mandate will affect more than 80 million workers in the private sector business. Companies face up to nearly $14,000 per violation. What happens when our teachers are forced to comply? What happens when the teachers choose not to get vaccinated? What happens when our teachers stand up and walk out? Can Mayfield afford to take the risk of losing teachers? Can they afford to lose bus drivers or custodians or paraprofessionals or even substitutes? Because if they won't stand up to protect our children, they most definitely will not stand up to protect our teachers. Each person takes a risk. Each group takes a risk. Those who choose to mask or vaccinate are taking a risk of being part of a medical trial that lacks time. Not all effects are seen immediately. And those who don't vaccinate are taking a risk of contracting a very serious, potentially deadly disease. But it comes down to the fact that we are just all taking the risk that we believe has the least amount of damage to us and our families. If we are not allowed to make those decisions for ourselves and keep control over our own medical care, eventually they will be telling us it's just to keep your job, it's just to get an education, it's just so you can participate in society, and it's just a law. All this just so we can get back to normal. Just stop. This continues to happen just to see what we will tolerate, and the word just can just end this nightmare, because if you just open your eyes, if you just realize where this is going, if you just stand up for your rights, if you stand up for your children, if you demand your freedoms, if you just realize your own power, if you just realize we have strength in numbers, and if you just realize that we are the majority, their power will just disappear.
Thank you, Ms. Apple. Next, we have Ashley Blanco.
Ashley Blanco, and I live in Highland Heights. I have 4 children in the district currently, and 2 who have already graduated from Mayfield. One of those graduates, Grace Tilley, you will hear from later tonight. The last time we were all together, the topic up for debate was that of parent choice versus government mandates. Many parents came to share data, personal stories, and heartfelt emotions on both sides of this issue. But for the parents' choice side of this debate, it was obvious that this board did not listen to anything that was said, and that they wish to continue their own COVID-19 policy, which as I see it is choosing fear and opinion over facts, science, and real data. If we want to discuss real data about masking children in schools, we can look no further than the data from the Ohio Schools COVID-19 dashboard from this school year. The chart I sent all of you today is from the 532 Ohio school districts reporting COVID cases. It clearly shows that there is statistically no difference in the number of cases between parent choice schools and those schools that mandate masks. This trend in masking data can be seen repeated all over the country from data collected this year and last. So it begs the question that if we are told to follow the science and data, why are we ignoring it? To further confuse and frustrate parents in our district, every day we receive our daily COVID email updates, and one sentence always appears. Quote, wearing a face mask may greatly reduce the risk of students and staff having to quarantine if a COVID-19 positive case is reported in any of our Mayfield schools, unquote. So your own policy indicates that you do not believe that a mask will greatly reduce my child's risk of actually catching COVID, just that it will reduce the chance that you will have to use your discriminatory policy of quarantining healthy children because they are not wearing a mask. When we were originally told of the mask mandate, it was said the district will review it weekly. We will give updates at board meetings. As far as I know, I do not receive a weekly mask mandate review update from anyone. We do receive the aforementioned daily COVID update that says, quote, each day, district officials examine and discuss COVID-19 case data from local health experts to drive our decisions along with case counts, unquote. Is this the review? Considering that the board feels that masks are so important for children's health and safety, the review of the mandate should be front and center. If you do have one of these reviews for the mask mandate, please consider using the information that I sent you earlier today with real data about masks in Ohio schools. I've heard some people say that we have other issues to discuss with this board besides the issue of masking. I agree wholeheartedly, from issues of bullying in the schools not being addressed to being shut out of board meetings for 60 months. While all those issues are important to me as well, I want this to be understood by everyone here. The line in the sand where many people will make their stand is the COVID-19 vaccine. If you cannot understand why parents' choice with masks is so important, replace the word mask with vaccines. I hope you can understand it now. I'm not looking forward to the day when I receive my parent survey about the COVID vaccine, and I am told that I have to get my children vaccinated, since decisions on these things are primarily based on parent surveys. Please try to understand that parent choice parents see masks as a slippery slope to all of their avenues of removing their choice and replacing that choice with government control. I want to ask the question that no one else has asked yet. When do your COVID-19 protocols end? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or rather, for our district, it is the $4.6 million question. What is your metric for stopping the mandates? Is it no cases of COVID anywhere ever? Or is it just until your federal COVID dollars run out? While we could go back and forth over the debate on the science of masks, there's still no debate for me over who is in charge of my children's health and well-being. It certainly isn't anyone who would rather placate those that are for government control and ignore the fact that parents are the first and last arbiters of medical decisions for their children. So my final words are to the parents and other members of this community, and I say this: there is an election this November. Use it wisely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Blanco. For the next 8 speakers, please state your name and your address. Missed you on the first brief. So, for the record, Ms. Morris is at 6809 Mayfield Road, Mayfield Heights.
I'm a public person.
Katie Apple, 1738 Mayfair Boulevard, Mayfield Heights, and Ashley Monaco, 6087 Williamsburg Drive, Highland Heights. So, the next speakers, please come up and state your name and your address. This is Chris Blanco.
My name is Chris Blanco, and I live at 6087 Williamsburg in Highland Heights. I have 4 children in our district and 2 more that have already graduated from MHS, one of whom you will hear from tonight. I'm here tonight to speak about COVID mitigation strategies in our schools. Our school system will receive a total of $4.6 million in COVID relief fund over this year and last. In looking at the board's spending plan for this money, the board has allocated almost $600,000 to supporting remote learning, technology, PPE, including disinfectant hand sanitizers, plexiglass dividers, and disposable face masks. Who gave you that guidance that this was the correct plan to mitigate COVID-19 in buildings like those in our school district? What industrial hygienist did this board consult? Industrial hygiene is a science and art that devotes to the anticipation, recognition, evaluation, and control of those environmental factors and stressors, including bacteria and viruses, arising in the workplace which may cause sickness. They are the experts in PPE use inside of buildings and disease and toxin mitigation strategies. A leader in this field like Stephen Petty, who told this board to save their $600,000. Stephen Petty is a certified industrial hygienist, holds 9 U.S. patents in HVAC system design, and has served as an expert witness for PPE and related disciplines in over 400 legal cases. He would tell this board that PPE that we spend money on, like blue masks and social distancing, won't do much against the particles which contain SARS-CoV-2. The CDC even agrees with this assertion by admitting on May 7, 2021, that the primary transmission vector for COVID-19 is airborne aerosolized particles, not surfaces and large droplets, which was widely believed. Airborne aerosols are single or multiple particles of virus and other material that are smaller than 5 microns. To give you some perspective on how small a micron really is, the square area of a micron is 1/4000th of the area of a cross-section of a human hair. COVID particles are 1/10 of that size. In a study in 2021, it was determined that 99.99% of all particles exhaled, coughed, and sneezed by healthy and infected subjects were under 5 microns. These aerosolized particles are being expelled through the mask material and through the gaps around the mask. Even a perfectly sealed mask can only block 10 to 12% of these small particles in a clean lab environment, and no one has a perfectly sealed mask in the real world. These small aerosolized particles carry 8.8 times the viral load of the larger particles blocked by the mask. These aerosolized particles can travel in distances exceeding 25 feet, not 6. These aerosolized particles also stay suspended in the air for up to 2 days without proper air ventilation. So you could literally be breathing SARS-CoV-2 particles, even through your mask, in the grocery store today from an infected person that was 2 aisles over on Monday. This is why when you look at graphs of SARS-CoV-2 spread, there is little to no statistical correlation between mask mandates and social distancing and reduced spread. These measures literally do not matter one bit. I hope that you can begin to see what the public considers the mitigation strategies for SARS-CoV-2 really do nothing at all to slow the spread, and why the $600,000 we're spending so far on it is really quickly waste. Instead of throwing PPE at the problem, industrial hygienists use something called a hierarchy of controls to minimize exposure. In this hierarchy, the focus is on diluting, destroying, or containing the airborne acids. The PPE we use do none of that. This is why the PPE we use is not even on the hierarchy of controls. Even N95 masks aren't good enough to make this list. Mr. Petty was asked to evaluate the Mayfield School District's policy, and I quote, "Ordinary facial coverings like the one required by the MCSD facial cover policy do not meet any of the several key OSHA respiratory protection standards for respirators. Because of the gaps around the edges of facial coverings required by MCSD's policy, they do not filter COVID aerosols. The effectiveness of a cloth mask falls to 0 when there is a 3% more open area around the edges of the mask. Most over-the-counter disposable face coverings have edge gaps of 10% or more." End quote. In the budget, this board allocated $1.2 to $4.6 million in COVID relief for improving the HVAC system. Who is designing that system that could literally eliminate SARS-CoV-2 and other airborne viruses from our schools? Our demand as a community should be that we're not just going to be happy giving the students a 5-cent mask and a squirt of hand sanitizer and a HEPA filter. Instead, we demand this board follow the science laid out above and hire competent industrial hygienists like Mr. Petty. So I ask the board today, if our children are drowning, as one board member posited during the last meeting, do we throw them a rubber duck or do we throw them a lifeguard? Thank you.
thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Grace Kelly, and I live at 6087 Williamsburg Drive in Highland Heights. I'm a 2020 alumni in Mayfield High School, and today I will be giving you a student's perspective into the COVID-19 protocols. But first, I would like to give you a little bit of my background. In 2014, my mom passed away from cancer, and since my dad passed away when I was a baby, I went to live with my big sister, Ashley Bongo, and her husband, Christopher Bongo. My whole world had turned upside down, but they raised me and built a home for me, and I am grateful for everything they have done for me. Ashley became the mother I had lost, and Chris became the father I had never gotten to know. Something they taught me was not to follow rules that would harm me and or someone I care about. As stated by Martin Luther King Jr., one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws, which is why I'm here today. Moving on to school, I got good grades, I was in multiple clubs, I was even in honors and AP classes despite my IEP, and I was in Excel Tech in the TEACH program. Now, I may not have had to deal with COVID protocols in high school, but I still felt the effects mentally. Let's turn back time to 2018. There I was, sat in the audience at my brother's graduation. All I could think about was how soon that would be me. I would walk down the aisle to that classic graduation song. I would go up when my name was called. I would move my tassel while people would clap for me, despite most of them not knowing me. My family would be proud of me, and most important of all, I would be proud of myself. Instead, I didn't get a proper graduation. I got a consolation graduation. I was proud of myself, but it wasn't the same. I deserved a proper graduation for all my years of hard work. At least I had prom, right? Wrong. I lost two important rites of passage, and this regret will follow me for the rest of my life. I will forever remember when one of my classmates indirectly called me selfish for being upset about this. I was not selfish, I was human. At least I had freshman year of college to look forward to, right? Wrong. We were forced to wear masks at all times outside of our rooms except for outside. If we didn't, we would get written up after a certain amount of warnings. There were barely any events for us to hang out and get to know each other because of COVID. To add on to that, my roommate wasn't there half the time, so I was just lonely. I spent my days locked up in my dorm except to go get food and do laundry. I remember the countless nights eating alone in my dorm, looking out at the night sky and missing my family. Just something else I missed out on because of COVID. Currently, I'm on a break from college, but even if I wanted to go back, I couldn't because, surprise, surprise, Akron requires the vaccine. Flash forward to 2021, and I find out my younger nephews, the ones I consider to be my brothers, are suffering because of masks. They all have exemptions, but it doesn't matter. My youngest nephew is so anxious that he's the only one without a mask that he got sick and had to go home from school. His own words are that it makes him anxious when he can't see people's faces. Additionally, he can't even eat with his friends if they are in a different homeroom. What happens if he doesn't have any friends in his homeroom? The oldest one is scared he'll get yelled at, so he still wears a gaiter. He is graduating next year, and I don't want him to miss out on graduation and prom like I did. You may not think these protocols affect someone's mental health, but I can tell you from personal experience, from my nephews to me, that it does. I stayed silent on this topic for too long. I'm tired and I'm done. I needed to find my voice, and in fact, one of your staff, Principal Jeffrey Legan, who I greatly enjoyed having, once told me that mock trial could help me find my voice, and I appreciate him for always encouraging students to find their voices. So here I am. I've come full circle. I'm standing up for myself, my graduating class, my nephews, and the current students. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and I hope my words have affected anyone who is listening. And I'd like to remind you that this is the first school board election that I would have voted in. Thank you.
Next, Anthony Hamill.
Hi, my name's Anthony Howell. I live at 1738 Mayfield Heights. I went to Mentor Public Schools, born and raised in Mentor. That's how we pronounce it, Mentor, not mentor. I had a few mentors in my life. One mentor that comes to mind right now is a junior high teacher who was a German immigrant with a patriotic passion for teaching U.S. history. I played baseball and football in Mentor. I'm also an Eagle Scout. When I was in college, I found a career path in business like my father wasn't for me. As I finished up college and was working as a firefighter, 9/11 happened. I knew then I had found my passion for civil service. But September 12th, we were all proud to be Americans, flying flags with pride and helping each other. We were all 9/12 united. We said we would never forget. I found a career path that challenges me with difficult and sometimes scary situations to make someone's worst day just a little better. When my wife and I were looking for a home and a community to raise a family, we chose a house walking distance to Leander Elementary. Our children have developed friendships throughout this community, from school, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, ballet, baseball, softball, swim team, football, cheer, volleyball, and church. There are boys my children consider brothers, girls they consider sisters, and neighbors they call grandma and grandpa. All good families from all walks of life. We share a common goal for our children to grow up to be good people, for them to enjoy the amazing freedoms this country has to offer like nowhere else. Thomas Jefferson said, "If a law is unjust, a man is not only right to disobey it, he is obligated to do so." Martin Luther King Jr. said, "One has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws." 2 years ago, in February, Leander Elementary taught the children about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by reading the book, Let the Children March. Then they went for a walk outside. This year, when those same children attempted to participate in a national walkout at 10 a.m. on September 10th at the middle school, a mixed message was given. While the principal was outside safely guiding students who were on the front steps, inside there were teachers intimidating some students in the hallway with threats of phone calls to their parents and blocking the doors, impeding their right to protest. My concern right now is we are allowing fear in government to rule everyday life by incentivizing schools with money. We the people tell the government what we want, not the other way around. Ben Carson once said, "We've been conditioned to think that only politicians can solve our problems, but at some point, maybe we will wake up and recognize that it was the politicians who created our problems." Joe Biden recently said, "This is not about freedom, this is for your safety." It sounds like tyranny to me. Founding Father Benjamin Franklin said, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." By accepting state and federal handouts, you are giving control to the government. You are taking away God-given liberties protected by the U.S. Constitution. Do not consent to the medical testing and mandates being enforced in exchange for money. We will remember, we will not forget come election time and the inevitable school levies in the future.
Hi, I'm Carmela, 36391 Woodhawk Drive, Mayfield Heights. I'm very proud of all of you maskless parents in here standing up for your children, because you are your children's only defense. Nobody's going to care about them or love them as much as you besides God himself. Okay, real quick. You said you got letters from the Middle Ridge or whatever, from Center School or whatever, and their favorite subjects were recess and lunch. How odd. Recess and lunch are the only two times that they don't have to wear a mask. That's why they enjoy it. Okay, now another thing, masks. What about Mill Ridge? That's hearing impaired. Masks, they prove it. Now you can look online, Google it, I'm not gonna do all your homework for you. And we have somebody on the board that did take college, I believe it was in the Michigan State University. Deaf children cannot handle having people teach them with masks on their face. They need expression. We all know that because it says it in the deaf community that it's not a good idea. Now, we have somebody on the school board that went to school for that, and they should know that. Shame on them for letting these kids wear a mask. Another thing really quick is that, let's see, my youngest is 31, and 4 of the people that are here on the school board have been here since my kids graduated. Tell me, people, why the heck are you not voting? Hello? We need a change, and I have a couple of people that are here that are running for Board of Elections. No mask mandates, no shot mandates, period. Our body, our choice, these are our children. This is a school, okay? We're here to educate, not indoctrinate. God bless.
Joseph Jones. Hold on 1 second. He wants to change the batteries. Okay, sure.
Check 1, 2, testing.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you. Joseph Jones, 218 Essex Road. I have a question for the presiding officer. Do you allow, according to parliamentary procedure, for us to yield time to other people? Is it against your bylaws or is it in there? I'm just asking. Okay, thank you very much. That's fine. Then my next question was, how much are you guys paying the lawyer that you guys have to pay to take care of the lawsuit that you're being sued against because you're not upholding the Ohio Constitution and representing kids' rights? And that's why so many people are here today. I mean, there's been 8 speakers already, and so far, all 8 of them are wanting to talk about their rights. They're not being heard. They're important. They're their advocates, and their kids are their responsibility. If they have to, if they're damaged, if your actions damage them, they're the ones that pay for that. They're the ones that have to repair that. And that is why we're all here today to talk to you guys about it, because it says in the Ohio Constitution that you guys cannot take a regular Ohio citizen and force them into a healthcare system. And a healthcare system is anything where you force them to do something like put on a medical device, or you quarantine them. And that brings me up to your CDC flow chart that you use for quarantine. If somebody's wearing a mask, it doesn't matter if they're dripping with COVID. They're not, unless you test them, they're not going anywhere. If they don't have any symptoms, nothing happens, all right? That's not fair. They did this in the 40s in Nazi Germany. They started separating people. And then they started taking away privileges from them, education, the ability to work and provide for your family. And those people that supported those policies were not absolved from guilt. And you are not absolved from guilt. You are responsible. You took an oath to uphold these kids. Quarantining them and separating them without doing it uniformly the same way is against the law. And I don't care who pays you. I don't care how much money you get for it. It's wrong. It needs to stop. And that's why you're being sued. But everybody got their mask on, and everybody's so happy to go take the money, but in the end, our kids are getting abused. Thank you.
Next, Patrick Mustoka.
Hi, Benjamin Stokoe, 1207 Summit Drive. I don't know if I have to say this, but I am a board candidate. I guess I'm bringing a group board candidate. I'm not going to, I had a lot of things on my mind. I'm not going to rehash them all because a lot of the folks in the audience said it better than I ever could. I guess I'm just up here to, get my words out in the ether with this particular board because I got to sleep at night. And, I'm to the point now with these decisions on masks, especially in the elementary schools, but in the K through 12 world, there's literally zero evidence in the world that there's a health issue with 0 to 19-year-old. There's zero, guys. Now I know that in your demographic it's serious. It's not in 0 to 19-year-old kids. There's not evidence in the world. But I have evidence of something. I have 3 kids. I have one that's in 4th grade at Mill Ridge. I have one that's in 2nd grade. And I have another one that's over at LCPC. And soon will be, I think, will be in Mayfield schools. But something's got to change here. You're creating, let me depersonalize this. The decisions that are being made with respect to mask wearing are creating mental illnesses in kids.
Amen.
It's not a joke. It's really not. The anxiety level that my children are developing in the past year and a half is so disappointing that it's hard for me to stay unemotional, but I don't want to come across as like a crazy, all right? They are having trouble sleeping, okay? They are having like emotional issues in their social interactions. They're having a very difficult time discerning fact from fiction with what the leaders in the school and the teachers and the community. They have a very difficult time understanding, well, I have to wear a mask here, I don't have to wear a mask there. Like, why am I even wearing a mask? What am I supposed to tell them? We're protecting you for health reasons? There isn't a health concern.
Right.
We're creating mental illness. This is irrational. These are irrational decisions. Irrational decisions for the 0 to 19-year-old age group. If you're looking at me and going and trying to discount what I'm saying, and I think there's probably some of you that are, the data is clear. It's not in the world. In the world, it's not a health issue. So, again, I really want to depersonalize this because, I've heard things. I've heard the words abundance of caution. That is total BS. Because the issues that our kids are going to deal with as a result of 2 years now of irrational decisions is going to be found 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years from now when nobody here is accountable anymore. You follow me yet? I will wrap this up by stating something. At the end of the day, this decision does sit in the hands of the superintendent. Not at this school, but any school. They run the operation. The board doesn't make this decision on an operational basis. But the board is making it very, very hard for the superintendent to have an option. If I was on that board, I would be creating so much ground cover for the superintendent to be able to say, we're not going to do it. No one on the board is doing that. No one on the board is doing that. I don't know what his decision would be, what Dr. Barnes' decision would be, but I can tell you this. Nobody on the board is giving him any cover whatsoever to say no to the masks. Yeah. You're making it harder for him.
Hello, my name is, everybody can hear me all right? All right, my name is David Kern. I live at 1196 Summit Drive. And I just wanted to touch base on the early presentation, and God bless the teachers for what they do there. But what I've seen is that if you conform, you can be part of the community.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what would have happened if we conformed to the British? What would have happened if we conformed to the Nazis? What would have happened if we conformed to the 1960s? Let that chew. Tonight I stand in love before you with the divine calling as a father, a neighbor, a friend, and a community representative. Some of you may know of the humble position I currently serve. It seems like not too long ago, I spoke to this community as a unified in the face of a horrific tragedy. I stand here disappointed at the faction of people whose elevated titles have submerged the concerns and service of their neighbors who elected them. Yet in reverent humble honor of my called position, I stand before you today as a man and a servant of God. I speak every Sunday morning on the topics that gather us here today. And these topics deserve attention. All our people are seeking is our constitutional right of choice and decision. And you're separating us from that. The blood that was spilled for Stars and Stripes, you're treading on. There's a war going on, and I know this firsthand. COVID-19 is a bioweapon. Besides that, there's also a moral war. There's an ideological war. There's an emotional war. And as my brother just stated, there's a mental war on our children. There's a territorial war. And a war to preserve the land and its constitutional identity. So today, as a friend, I want to inform you, you are making our children prisoners of this war. I made a solemn vow in my days in uniform to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, as an infantry soldier. Most importantly, I made a vow to declare the Lord in season and out of season, and looking upon the landscape, I can certainly say this is the season. See, in war, there are good guys and there's bad guys. The problem is both think they're the good guys, when only one side can be bad. Any mandate opposed to the United States Constitution is tyranny, and that's Marbury and Madison 1806. Anyone who opposes the right afforded to us under the Constitution is an enemy of we the people. Most importantly, though there is a lack of biblical knowledge among some of you may deem you're doing the right thing, and I love you for that. But the reality is you're not. I know without a doubt my Lord, who healed the sick, cleared the lepers, is not standing with those who lack morals and sound judgment, those who have infiltrated the school because of an unwillingness to stand for what you know is right in the depths of your soul. The Lord is behind this cause of freedom. As history shows, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. The Lord is not behind the captivity that you are choosing for our children. Children are His special jewels. So much so, He says, unless we come to Him like a child, we cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. I fear for all those who oppose our rights. You are the enemy of this nation, and we the people. Regardless, I love you because I'm told to love my enemies. But I will not cease in fighting against you. In conclusion, I want to offer some sound advice for those who are standing up for your God-given rights. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God is with you. Stand firm with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, and do everything in Jesus' name. Amen.
Finally, we have Nathaniel Westbeer.
Hello.
All right.
My name is Nathaniel Westier. I'm 6809 Mayfield Road. A lot of you have chosen to wear these masks, and I'm sure you've read the box. But just to remind you, when you put on these paper masks, the box will tell you these masks have not been FDA cleared or approved. They're not recommended for any surgical setting where significant exposure to liquid bodily or other hazardous fluids may be exposed, or in any setting where infectious risk level is high. These things don't work, but it's great. There's great news because you've been breathing viruses in this entire time. Right now, you are breathing in viruses, and you've survived. That's great news. We don't need to teach fear. We don't need to, indoctrinate our kids every day to put these masks on and have them scared they're gonna kill somebody. That's insane. What are you people doing? I left this over here. Give me 1 second. Mr. Barnes came to Mayfield School and he said he would really appreciate, he would really teach the culture of this, the history of Mayfield. I love history, so just a few weeks ago, a time capsule was opened for Mayfield. Class of 1970 came and opened this time capsule. Our most at-risk population came. You know what they chose not to do? Wear a mask, and they lived. We live in a republic where you represent us, the taxpayer. You represent them. They're not dying. They're not dead. You're not dead. Your mask does not work. You're breathing in viruses right now. You have survived this entire time. Some of you look a little dead up there, but you know what? I'm assuming all of you are alive. But Mr. Barnes has forgotten that one of the largest populations of Soviet-era, Cold War area survivors of the Soviet Union live here in Mayfield. People who survived the Gulag. People who survived the most evil governance this planet has known live here and now see rationing authoritarianism coming down on them for this unscientific nonsense. For what people, you can't even tell us that who's at risk. Your mask does not work. You're breathing in viruses. And I know that what it is happening is these kids, what they're doing is producing an environment for bacteria to grow and re-inhale, where you're breathing in bacteria you won't normally have back in. That's child abuse, what they're doing. For a population that's not at risk, for those of you who are still alive to survive this, you're not going to die. I hate to break it to you. None of you who are wearing a mask are going to die. You're breathing in viruses right now. You have experienced zero enhanced protection throughout any of this. If the news didn't tell you this was happening, you would have known. Now you are currently being sued for child abuse in this manner. And regardless of this lawsuit, I know that there will be an army of parents fighting until their children are free from this totalitarianism. That's all I have to say. I don't have anything more for you.
I want to thank everybody for your comments tonight and keeping within the guidelines. I appreciate you doing that for us tonight. We're going to move on now to our superintendent's announcements. Okay. We're going to take a recess for 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to call this meeting back to order. And next we have the superintendent's announcements.
Thank you, Mr. President. It gives me great honor and privilege to share publicly that this is Rebecca Schmidt. counselor at Lander Elementary School has been named Elementary School Counselor of the Year. So what a tremendous honor. A quote from Principal Evans: "If you know Mrs. Schmidt, you know her work is her service not only to others, but to everyone. She is designed to care. She is designed to care, whether it's helping families meet their basic needs, guiding students through the grief, supporting students' mental health. Rebecca is a beacon of light in our school community." Thanks again, Rebecca Schmidt. I'm sure we'll be honoring her soon to come once again as a board, but what a tremendous honor. She speaks to the talent in this district. I'd also like to note that October 5th kicks off homecoming week with a parade. It starts on Lander Road, as traditionally it has. So we're excited about that, and we'll be capped off with a homecoming dance in the Wood Gym. So we're excited about that. We had the opportunity, Mrs. Euler and I, to meet with the Superintendent Student Advisory Group yesterday. We had about 17 students talk about the positive start to the school year, talk about their fun at the football games on Friday night, and just that they're just in a good place right now at the start of the school year. So that was really, really fun to meet with the kids. And we've had some shout outs. Mrs. Euler started a campaign on Facebook asking people to share their shout outs to Mayfield teachers or staff who has helped them over the last 5 weeks. Had a dozen comments. Mr. Triber's marching band has created a culture of acceptance and has made for an unbelievably smooth start to my freshman year, said one student. Another student said, "Mrs. Schultz, 5th grade center, has helped my daughter feel more confident with her math skills." Dozens more. We just wanted to just share a few. All in all, a good start, 6 weeks in here, and we're off and running and looking forward to more things to come. So thank you.
Next, we're going to go to the president's announcements. So we'll let the superintendent go first, because when I first started off was to congratulate Mrs. Schmidt. So he took that, and I did want to say one quote from Mrs. Evans out of that paragraph that she wrote about her, that Rebecca's a beacon of light in our school and our community. I think if you know Rebecca, you know that she is here to help everybody, not just at Lander, but everybody in the schools and in this community. She's volunteering. And she's just a wonderful person, so congratulations to her. She's one of the many rock stars that we have in this district for the staff. I also wanted to thank Sean Conroy for all the work he did last month to get this meeting here. It's a little, I know it's probably a lot of work to bring everything from the board office and try to get this set up so we could have a functional meeting with all these microphones and devices. So Sean, thank you for the setup last month and this month. I appreciate all the work you've done to get this going. And finally, I just want to take a moment to thank Dr. Barnes, the entire district staff, and my fellow board members. Thank you for keeping your eye on the ball during this past crazy 18 months. And what I mean by that is that we're focused on what's important. That's keeping the kids in school, safe and learning, with friends, enjoying everything that our schools have to offer. And I think we saw that tonight with the second graders, how great they are and what they're doing in school. And I want to end with just this quote that was shared from a K-12 principals meeting that Dr. Barnes recently had. Dr. Barnes said, "We have to keep the bullseye on teaching and learning right now, tomorrow, in this school year. We focus on students, learning, and attention with a shared vision in our school's culture. That's the power, and there's no stopping it." I totally agree with that. And thank you for that message. So I'm going to move on now to our board committee reports. Are there any committee reports tonight? So in our next section, Superintendent's consent agenda, I do have one correction that has to be made. If you go to E, certified winter coaches, Cullen Harris is listed as the basketball boys head coach. That is going to be updated to say the basketball girls head coach. So the one change that's made in this consent agenda, that will be updated in minutes. So I need a motion for approval of the consent agenda A through X.
Second.
Yes. Roll call. Roll call.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi.
Yes.
Mr. Naro.
Yes. Item 9, other superintendent's business. Item 9, other superintendent's business. Certified additional training. Motion for approval.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi. Mr. Naro.
Yes. Item 10, the treasurer's report. We have letter A, financial statements for August 31st, 2021. Need a motion for approval.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess. Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi. Mr. Naro.
Yes. Letter B, the financial transactions. Need a motion for approval.
Second. Yeah, okay. Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi. Mr. Naro.
Yes. Item C, the 2021-22 annual appropriations resolution, attachment number 7. I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess. Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi. Mr. Naro.
Yes. The final item under this category, item D, donations. Need a motion for approval.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi. Mr. Naro.
Yes. Section 11, other treasurer's business. Item A, minutes of our regular board meeting of August 25th, 2021. Need a motion for approval. Roll call.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi. Mr. Naro.
Yes. Item B, rescind the PSI Affiliates Inc. agreements for Gilmore Academy for the 2021-22 school year. I'll make the motion. I need a second. Roll call.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi. Mr. Naro.
Yes. Item C, rescind the Connect service contract for Gilmore Academy for the 2021-22 school year. Need a motion for approval.
So moved. Just as a piece of information, Mr. Snyder, as to exactly what is happening has to do with the hospital, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Ms. Grosek, rescinding these contracts is based on the fact now the Gilmore Academy receive its state aid directly and have elected to do so. So they're in these contracts, we don't need to know what it is.
Thank you for that clarification.
Roll call.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi. Mr. Naro.
Yes. Item D, rescind the cell phone stipend. Need a motion for approval. Mr. Hess, second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi. Mr. Naro.
Yes. Item E, the bank reconciliation services, attachment number 9. I'll make the motion. Do I have a second? Second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess. Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi. Mr. Naro.
Yes. Item F, agreement for the provision of school resource officer by the City of Mayfield Heights, attachment number 10. I'll make a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi. Mr. Naro.
Yes. Item G, 2021 2021-2022 cell phone stipends. I'll make the motion. Can I have a second? Roll call.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess. Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi. Mr. Nara.
Yes. Item H, request approval of the following resolution pertaining to the treasurer. I'll make the motion. Can I have a second?
So moved.
Roll call.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess. Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi. Mr. Nara.
Yes. Item I, addendum number 2, memorandum of understanding between the Board of Education and Mayfield Association of Support Personnel. I'll make the motion. Can I have a second? This is similar to the.
Yeah, just to clarify, right? Yes, this is negative. That is initiated last year for the mass marketing unit. So it's consistent with the plan design. It's the dollar values obviously that bargaining unit.
They have the end of the year to decide.
They have until December, beginning of December, and then we will bring to you if it's financially viable. Recommendation to move forward at December.
Thank you. Roll call.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess. Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi. Mr. Nara.
Yes. Final item, item J, addendum number 2, the HVAC building automation services upgrade. Gardner, addendum number 2. I'll make the motion. Can I have a second? Roll call, please.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess. Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi. Mr. Nara.
Yes. Our next item is executive session. We will be moving into executive session. It is recommended that the Mayfield Board of Education convenes an executive session for ORC 121-2022 G3 with its attorney to discuss pending or in-court action. We'll go into executive session. When we come out, there will be no further actions except for adjournment. Thank you. Have a good evening. Oh, we need a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Almost had it. I read the
almost
script for this time. Roll call, please.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess. Mr. Hughes. Mr. Torresi. Mr. Nara.
Yes. Thank you.